Hello, 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 everyone, and welcome back to day 3 of Money 2020. We're here in Amsterdam. We've got the Metallicus team. We got Lunar Crush here. We've been walking around. We've been having a lot of fun. The conference has been absolutely buzzing. It's been fun to be over here in Europe, in Amsterdam, just seeing all the fintech companies, seeing a lot of crypto companies, Web3 companies, a lot of payments companies. So we're having a lot of fun. We're back on day 3. And just wanted to kind of get a little rundown here from you guys, everyone. John, Marshall, Irina, how do you guys feel about the conference? Just what did you see? What kind of got you excited? What are you guys feeling about what happened here this week?
It's great. I've been saying this. I've been coming to the Money 2020 conference for a number of years now. It started in the U.S. and then I came here for the first time last year, when we launched MetalPay Europe and Metal API. And every year, it's just more and more crypto. And I was thinking about it as I was walking in today. I was counting how many booths I could go before it turned crypto again. And I think I only got to like 2 booths. I could go 2 booths, and then it's crypto again. And so every banking API, payments API, banking as a service, card issuance, point of sale, hardware terminals, anti-fraud. Even if they're not crypto, there's a crypto component in their advertising, blockchain, different areas that it crosses over. But then a lot of just crypto-focused companies, custodians. You see Fireblocks, Copper over there, and Ripple Labs is here, 1inch is here, Lunar Crush is here, Metallicus, and I know there's a lot more. I just walk around the floor, but notable names on the floor. Cryptos that you probably own or trade, and wallets and different types of dApps and things that I know that pretty much everyone in crypto here has used. So very cool.
Yeah, it's a good point about it's even some of the more traditional companies. They did have like a crypto section on one of the advertisements that were here of, hey, we're starting to accept stable coins, right? I even saw Circle had like a Euro USD, which
Circle's here. I almost forgot.
Yeah, which I didn't even know that they were there. And then you just talked to, I think, Arculus, who has like a really cool kind of card that you interviewed him, is great. And I think it's really interesting just to see, crypto, yes, but also it's the innovation side of what's coming from the more traditional companies as well. And so I wanted to just ask a little bit, for in our industry this week, the breaking news has been coming pretty fast and furious. And just, from a Metallicus and, MetalPay standpoint and everything, what are you guys going to be focusing on? And what are you seeing? What kind of lens are you looking through, knowing that there's just been a lot of, the landscape continues to change in the industry. And so what are you guys trying to stay focused on as you leave here, and what have you kind of learned from that?
Go ahead. This has been my thesis over the past, since the beginning of Metallicus, but over the past 5 years of Metallicus, or I guess you could boil it down to the past 3 years in particular, around 2020, we really doubled down on this vision of 2 things that we always believed in, but we started to really double down. Decentralization, because that's why we're all here, right? In the very beginning, if you ask yourself, why are people interested in crypto? What's the value of crypto? It's decentralization and permissionless data, right? And borderless money, and the experimentation with money and banking, and how we can evolve it in a rapid way and connect it to the internet. So decentralization, we have to double down on that. Everything that has gone wrong in crypto has been an issue around centralization for the most part. Okay, maybe some hard fork issues or other things like that we've had with chains that are around decentralization, trying to achieve faster transactions per second is a decentralization issue, right? But in scalability issue. But when it comes to all the blowups, all the Celsiuses, the FTXs, the Mt. Goxes, they're all centralization issues. They're all centralized servers and issues with people, when we should be using smart contracts to make lending decisions and things like that. When we hand the keys to someone else to just log into the DeFi lending platform for you, what happens? You lose all your money, and maybe you'll get some percentage of it back in court. And I'm going to unlock my Mt. Gox coin soon, so I can relate. But the next part is, I would say, compliance. And we really, everybody, a lot of people in crypto from the very beginning thought these things were at odds. So, the idea was kill the compliance, get rid of the compliance, down with the banks. But, banking is a very old institution, is the most powerful wealthiest institution in the world. There is no better business than the business of banking, in my opinion. When it comes to how much influence this has in the world and how they can change the world. You think about before Medici and before banking, like the Renaissance and everything that came about in human history, and that's happening again with blockchain. So, to say that banking is going away is absolutely wrong. If banking went away, there'd be pure chaos. This event wouldn't exist. We would be, it would be going back to the Stone Age in some ways, right? And so blockchain complements banking and payments where it's difficult. And crypto has that permissionless capability, sort of like water, to kind of flow through where it couldn't before. So when you think about that, if banking and blockchain are going to combine, we have to find ways to basically align them in terms of how banking and payments work today, and that's all of the banking regs, FinCEN, OFAC, Treasury, the equivalent in Europe, and abroad globally. But we can automate all of this stuff, right? We want people to pay their taxes when they trade crypto, and we should be able to automate that through smart contracts and things like that. Everything should be so simple. When you think about, what's happened with technology and take Apple, for example. Why was Apple so successful? They streamlined everything. They made it so easy. You didn't have to have 5 devices. And, one device was everything. It was a personal computer in your hand, right? And that kind of vision with blockchain, same thing. When I don't need a hardware wallet and I don't need all this extra stuff, and when it's not, I don't have to worry about losing my keys and signing a transaction. I don't even have to open a third-party app. I just do it right in the browser with the Face ID. That's where crypto becomes really valuable. So for us, decentralization, compliance, we're really doubling down, especially compliance right now, building out that reg tech into our blockchain. People said it wasn't going to be popular, and now I think it's going to be very obvious. It's going to be everything in the near future. Oh, and also the banking side, building our own bank, because I think that there's just not enough. Not enough reliable banking partners in and around blockchain, and there aren't enough reliable partners in fintech and banking in general.
You said building your own bank. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure.
Well, Marshall and I did establish a company, a holding company of BBT Holdings, and we have identified a bank to acquire. And it's going to be a very slow, step-by-step process in bringing back, not that it really went away, but there is some mistrust with banks right now in the US with some consumers and small businesses and maybe some larger businesses. And all of the industries got affected by that. SVB, First Republic, Signature Bank, Silvergate Bank. So we want to provide banking services for people that are traditional banking services that are simple and understandable and what every company and every person needs. And for the bank, we understand how to do proper compliance of companies that will, put good deposits in the bank, take out good loans that are funded a certain way, that have the licenses to operate their companies. So that's our vision for our upcoming bank acquisition, to bring back the trustworthy, banking institution to the companies so they can be above board, because it is very hard to get a bank account right now.
We saw a lot, and that's amazing. But we saw a lot of kind of proof of reserves. And when you think about, are you guys thinking about maybe transparency in a little bit of a different way? It's almost like imagining a bank that's completely on chain and transparent in a way. Maybe not from, hey, I can see every single account and someone's name. We're not talking about that. Kind of like everyone's address is somewhat public, but potentially I can see some of the flows of money going through this bank. And what do you think increased transparency would do for someone like you guys are coming from the crypto space, Web3, you understand in detail how important that transparency is. Are you going to be doing anything differently if you can get your hands on this bank and kind of work through it? I mean, that's kind of why they have gap accounting, right? They want the transparency. They want to understand, like, hey, this is a solvent thing. It seems like there's better tools to do that too.
So I think that, again, the industry and the regulators and the compliance need to all come to the table for this to work, because we could put something on chain, we could put something in an Excel spreadsheet, which is what we do when we report to the regulators. We're a money transmitter license holders, so we actually have the same reporting requirements as financial institutions. So that what you're talking about already exists.
Right.
So we do proof of it's called different, for financial institutions, but proof of the reserves, permissible investment reporting. We do all of that on a quarterly basis to the regulators. So the banks also do that. I think that, like with disrupting any industry, every stakeholder has to agree to what the standard is going to be. So we are in a position with our blockchains where we can provide that tool, and maybe somebody will buy in, to implement that tool, but the regulators, we're going to need to bring them on board as well. It's the same thing as, anything else, ID on chain. People need to say, yes, I will accept that ID on chain. But the thing with us is we're ready. And then with this bank and us being kind of at the table with the regulators, we can start talking to them and we can start bringing them to the table to what the ideas and already built tools that we have. So I think that's gonna give us a little bit of an edge there.
Yeah, I just wanted to say too, our proposal with FBBT is kind of, the basic boring bank, because we're not going to come in changing all this stuff overnight, right? But our vision as founders and entrepreneurs is that this is where banking can go, right? So starting with our bank, it's a basic boring bank in that sense, but the values of the bank, the technology around the bank, we're going to improve, starting from square one. Better security, better mobile app. A text message to verify you is very dangerous, as we learned in crypto. But yet the banks are still relying on that, and that's how your bank account gets hacked. And so better identification, better anti-fraud, better user experience, better customer service. Just starting at the most basic stuff. Understanding of money service businesses and how the bank interacts with MSBs. If you go to a top 4 and say, "Hi, I'm a new fintech and I just got my new money service business license," they say goodbye, literally. And then add in, and I'll also think about doing some things in the crypto space. They'd be like, "Don't ever come back," and they'll call all the other banks and be like, "Don't let them in." Seriously, it really is that bad.
Yeah.
And so. That's where we want to be different, starting there. And then obviously we have the long range vision, the 10-year, 20-year, 100-year vision. Obviously we're not going to be around for 100 years, but we want maybe, who knows, AI, plug into the Neuralink, who knows? Yes. But assuming that we're not, we want a vision, our companies to really grow and become, long range companies. And, that's what the vision we have at Metallicus. And with FPBT, the State Bank of Nauvoo, it's actually 117. It's
over 100 years old.
One of the oldest banks in the United States. So, I think it's very cool to add to that culture and that legacy of one of the oldest banks in the United States keeps going. Another 100 years, 200 years, or 300 years. Can't even imagine that far into my head, but that's I think. It starts with that, because when the crypto space only has one bank left in the United States to work with, that's a really bad place to be. And Silvergate not just made mistakes. I think there were serious problems over there. I won't make any allegations or anything, but you can see how bad that the compliance aspect was, right? Because FTX, has their corporate account name on your personal deposit page, right? That was never supposed to happen. And the other products, what was it? The Silvergate Exchange Network. I don't think that was ever approved by the regulator. So for us, we're not looking to do anything like that. It's a boring basic bank in that sense. Banking does move slow. And where we move fast is over here in Metallicus. But that doesn't mean that the values of the bank and the technology around the bank and just getting the foundational part right is like one of the most important parts, because without that, our industry is going to really suffer.
Yeah, no, I think it's, when you think about something like a Tesla, I kind of think of an example of, these really historical old car companies. And, you want to go disrupt those. It's kind of like you can't come in from the side and sell services in. and suddenly like the buttons get redone and like the design gets redone. It's like there's a cast and there's a manufacturing facility and it's like always on. You can't turn it off. But then you have a brand new car company from scratch. It's very difficult to do, but if you can establish that, then the base level of innovation is 50 years, 20 years ahead, right? They're moving with speed, and so it's just, to me, it's kind of cool because it's, if you guys have a bank that's associated or part of what you're doing, you can kind of start to build directly into that. And to see Web3 going into the bank versus the bank going into Web3 is a much faster route, in my opinion, to create that change and innovation. It's almost like a test net, if you will, of crypto, where you can push innovation, do disruption, prove, and then start to outcompete maybe some of the other people that are here. And suddenly they're like, what's going on over there?
Yeah, it's also, it's supply and demand of products. There's still, crypto blockchain is very early, and you don't, we use it. I don't know how much you guys use it. Like we buy, sell, we build a lot of things on the blockchain, but that's not what an average person would walk into a bank and say, do you guys have, blockchain accounts? Do you have crypto accounts? So we don't need to rush into that. We need to go slow. We need to provide reliable banking. We're also very good at, I won't be shy and say it, but we're also very good at an AML, BSA, OFAC screening. We have extremely good processes for that. So our bank will not have, the plan is for our bank to not have any issues, with kind of bad players. And of course, we're very good at technology. And I just wanted to add to your first question. People come to our booth and people come and talk to us, and not that many people are coming and talking about crypto or asking about coins or Coinbase. They're asking about, I have a use case. Can I use Metal blockchain to build it? Can I use your Proton blockchain to build it? Can I integrate something with your wallet? So there's a lot of businesses, there's a lot of use cases now talking about blockchain, and they don't, that's a very separate thing from what's happening with, let's say, Coinbase and Binance right now. They may never interact with those.
What are those use cases and drivers? Like, what are you seeing them come at you with?
So a very interesting one yesterday was it actually was at the party, at the event. So somebody is selling equipment to, let's say, Red Cross, and they are selling, I don't know, like some sort of equipment that could later be viewed as like a military equipment. And whoever is selling it doesn't want to be the responsible for, say, selling, let's say, something that could turn into warfare equipment. And I guess, I didn't know this, but I was explained by somebody that is a big risk for vendors and suppliers to sell things like that, because then they could be on the hook with, the governments and other organizations for selling, war equipment to Red Cross, for example. So they said, if it's on the blockchain and I can prove that this is me and I sold it to Red Cross, and then whatever Red Cross did with it, or maybe something happened after that, I wasn't involved. So this, again, nothing to do with your say, can I use Metal blockchain for this? Can you help me do a use case for this kind of thing?
Is this like personal liability you're talking about? Like that specific person, or the business itself is like, I don't want to be responsible?
I don't know. I think this is actually a very big organization that's looking at this. It's not, I can't go sell like
It is an interesting point though, because it's, if you work at a business and maybe you worked in a department at that business, and maybe you leave that business to go and then maybe have to go get that information later on in some sort of way, you'd have to get potentially like subpoenas. You'd have to use legal. It'd be very expensive, very difficult, where someone could just like have an allegation to say, oh, you sold, it's like, the memes of those Toyota trucks that you see potentially in other parts of the world that they shouldn't be using, and they're being used for military operations. It's kind of saying, hey, you sold these trucks over here. You're responsible. It's like, no, here's the invoice, that you can kind of verifiably prove, where you didn't have to put all the information on there. It's just kind of that yes or no. And so I think it's a very interesting innovation.
Yeah, there's a lot of fraud, I guess, being committed with, I sent you a payment and the goods didn't arrive, but you said they arrived. This is a lifelong issue, right? It didn't just come up, but we did talk to somebody who said, we send money and we need to have some sort of on-chain proof of what happened when and who did what. there's a lot of use cases. Like we think about use cases for banks, right, and for financial services. There's a lot of use cases that are coming up to us that not even related.
I had a guy come up to me who basically does banking as a service, and he was asking about what we do, and had read a little bit about Metal blockchain, and didn't know too much about Metal Pay and some of the other stuff that we had built. But he had multiple clients who wanted to launch stable coins, and he was turning them away because they're primarily only focused on the banking tech, like the core banking. And so he was kind of looking for something like this because he wanted to be able to have in his suite of products an offering where he can say, oh, not only can we help build your banking backend and do your IT work, but we can also help you launch your stable coin through a partnership with Metallicus, through Metal Dollar. And then he said, we had he had another client who had one of the larger mineral rights owners, like mining company, and they wanted to tokenize minerals and create like a minerals exchange, I guess, here in Europe. And he said, again, this was a little bit out of our wheelhouse, so I declined it. And they wanted to do something with cryptocurrency. And I pointed out, well, that would be perfect for something like Metal blockchain, where you could work with us to essentially white label Proton DEX through another subchain, a mineral chain or whatever you want to call it. And he was pointing out that he's like, oh, and that one's partnered with one of the banks that wanted to launch a stable coin. So, it all comes together, but it's still in kind of the early phase. But we've been talking to a lot of people coming over interested in Metal blockchain, primarily also like the trading aspect, capability to handle, like I mentioned, like mineral rights stuff. But also I spoke with a couple different companies that are doing blockchain explorers, and they were interested to kind of like see how we might be able to work together on our product. We built block explorers for our blockchains, but we were also thinking internally at some point that, as we expand WebAuth Wallet out, we might just add Ethereum block explorer, etc. That's actually how Glenn and I met, was working on a block explorer and custody solution.
Nice. Yeah, like you're seeing Deloitte here. You see a lot of the consulting companies, like they're still here, right? I think, walking around, there's so many different merchants here, right? And I think in crypto and in Web3, everyone's like, oh, it's so crowded. Everyone's doing the same thing. It's like, walk around this one TradFi FinTech conference, and there's like 100 different payments, cross-border, IBAN, like Swift routing, different types of interfaces that banks can use, and disruption on UX. It's just innovation is everywhere. And it's like, I think it's nice to come to a conference like this. We've been in the space now 5 years, right? You guys have been even a little bit longer. I know you've been almost like over 10 years now. And sometimes it's hard to get out of the box a little bit. And like we see the Twitter feed with all the stuff going on with Coinbase, and then we're not, you're not thinking even internationally, and then you're not thinking, sector agnostic. And so I think it's been really refreshing from our side to be here and to see just the absolute crazy amount of innovation that can happen, and how you can disrupt very small pieces of a value chain and create massive businesses, right? Like even something like Stripe that just started from a very basic payment. Now it's like you can launch your business on Stripe, right? there's like legal and like lawyers that you can find. There's all this stuff. And so it's just the beginning of seeing a lot of this. And so for me, it's exciting.
Yeah.
Well, Stripe just launched their fiat on-ramp. So that's going to be a big one.
It is. Yeah. One thing, it's kind of interesting. Like you mentioned, there's a focus on decentralization with a lot of the companies that are here. And it just rang hard in my head thinking of all the people that have even come to me that think FTX was a crypto failure.
Yeah.
So it's like when you think about, endlessly. Last week, I had someone at my house that was saying, hey, I'm sorry what happened with crypto. I was like, what are you talking about? And they thought Bitcoin had failed. And I was like, no. This was a corporate failure with a lack of transparency. But it's funny because a big part of the narrative here is onboarding, is user experience. You're not going to onboard people if they think that FTX failing was a crypto failure. And I think it's really interesting if you tie that back to decentralization, you end up with it really is the most important thing. And it's why I think all of this is here, is to create that level of transparency And so it's refreshing to see that there is a big major focus on it. I think a lot of the companies here see that. So
Yeah.
very exciting.
So there are a lot. So our compliance head of compliance is here, and he's like, this is Disneyland meets candy store. For him. But for him it's like compliance things. There's all this innovation in AI transaction monitoring. There is a company that does like all this research for you about like where each regulation is going in every country all over the world. So there's KYC providers, there's custody providers. Somebody asked a question in our group and said, "Oh, did the Money 2020 conference get shaken up by the Coinbase and Binance news?" And I was like, not really.
No,
Like no
we're
one.
the only ones talking about
Yeah.
it.
So I started thinking. I'm like, yeah, there's crypto. Like Marshall said, every company has something to do with either blockchain or cryptocurrency. But it's not like people are not selling their coins on every corner here. People there was no issue here. And you talk to everyone else, and we go up to them, and they're like, yes, we have a crypto component in our offering. We're an AML monitoring provider. We have a crypto component in it. We have a research of licenses. We research crypto licenses all over the world. That the world hasn't stopped. Yeah, Bitcoin price goes up and down. Marshall has a good saying about that. But this conference wasn't affected.
No, I really like coming here because this is my jam, where banking meets crypto. This is what got me really excited about crypto. There's so many different aspects of blockchain that different things that are happening, like what you guys are doing with the social data. There's so much happening in DAOs and NFTs and all these different areas of crypto. But for me, and I love it all, but for me, I love where the bank and like the modern world meets crypto. When I first discovered crypto in 2009, I downloaded the original Bitcoin QT client on my 2008 MacBook Pro, mined on the GPU till it melted it and warped it. And, by 2010, BitcoinTalk.org, people were trying to trade and do things. And I kind of really a lot regret, trading Bitcoin under $1, for a gift card or a pair of socks or something stupid. I regret spending Dogecoin in 2014 and giving it to so many people. Hey, here's $100, which is now like, I don't know, like 50 grand or something, just handing it to someone. I have a funny story actually on that. The Doge NASCAR. When that happens, the Dogecoin community, for those that don't know, this is like 9 years ago, Dogecoin community, right when it was kind of launching, we came up with this idea on Reddit. We're like, hey, what would be something fun and cool to kind of, get the word out about Dogecoin? We're like, we need something American. NASCAR, there's nothing more American than NASCAR. Just put the Dogecoin right on the NASCAR hood and be like, America. And then it became this joke. And then we were like, no, seriously, we're going to do it. Tomorrow at noon, we're going to tweet at Dogecoin to NASCAR, and everybody just type hashtag Dogecoin and send all your memes and everything. We got 100,000 people tweeting at NASCAR, and then we got the Kabosu on the hood of Josh Wise's car. NASCAR responded and was like, what can I do for you, right? And so we crowdfunded $20K to put Kabosu on the hood. Anyways, long story short, the founders of Dogecoin, one of the founders, Jackson Palmer, and I were there. Josh Mullen from Doge Tipbot and Matt Kahn from originally from GamerX, now working on really cool gaming project. We were really far away from the parking lot, so we basically were like, we got to get a ride back or something. Like, this is going to be like, I don't know, like hour walk back, 45-minute walk back to the car. We see this kid with a golf cart, and we've got a box full of paper wallets. I think it was like $200 or $150. It was, or maybe it was more. It was like $300.
Yeah.
But now I think it's probably worth like well over $1 million, right? And so this kid, we're like, hey kid, will you give us a ride back to your car? We'll give you $200, or it wasn't, it maybe wasn't even that much, like $100. It's like, we'll give you $100, Dogecoin paper money. It's all in this box. And someday this could be worth millions. He's like, oh, whatever, like get in. And then like, little do we know, like, I hope he saved it. It would be really amazing if he was telling the story from the other side. And he's like, and I met the Dogecoin founder and these guys, and they gave me a box full of $1 million.
He's listening.
I know. Contact me.
Yeah,
Marshall Hayner on Twitter.
Yeah,
Tweet
maybe
at me.
you can send some money back or something.
Yeah, I'll take a commission.
Yeah, we'll send you a T-shirt.
That's an amazing story. I love that. It's always like a small piece of history whenever we get together. It's fun. So we like last kind of question for everyone is, what do you want to see next year when you're here? Like whether it's from Metallicus, or the industry. What are you excited about? We'll skip over the Vegas Money 2020, which I know is coming up, and we'll go a full year to the next time. And what do you guys expect to see out of the market, whether fintech, banking, Web3, crypto, kind of all together, and just like from a macro view, what do you guys want to see next year? It's okay to take a second and think.
You go first. I have an idea.
So when I first, I've only been coming to this event for 2 years now, so my second year. But my first one in Vegas was 2016, and there was no crypto anything. There was like one sign that said Bitcoin. So when I came here last year in 22, there was a fair amount of crypto stuff. It's already, pretty penetrated into the industry. Next year, I want to come here and I want to see the biggest. I want to see MasterCard, Visa. I want to see all of the biggest players, right? Fiserv, all these guys. I want to see them all talking about how they're integrating blockchain. Because right now we're still like a little, one of the features, one of the things that we offer, right? One of the services. But I'd really like to see next year like a renaissance, an explosion, because only a few years ago, and even last year, you're seeing companies here, and I won't name them, but you can just, obviously there are some companies that were maybe represented here last year, other years before, and in crypto, and they're no longer here. And I think some of those, or a lot of those companies just did, and it's again in the news today, right? They made critical mistakes. And more often than not, in my experience, what I've seen, it's around compliance. Huge mistakes around compliance. And they're no longer here, and they're going to be gone. So I think the next year will probably be the renaissance, because last year was the beginning of kind of these explosions. It feels like we're seeing the last of them right now. Like it's like the end of the fireworks show. And then what comes after that?
We shall see. So,
Yeah.
I've got, I don't know if this relates to Money 2020 necessarily, but you say compliance. Well, Coinbase thought they were compliant, right? Coinbase thought they were doing things properly and weren't, apparently, by some unknown force of compliance, right? I feel like what I would hope to see, well, macro speaking, is an understanding of what compliance actually looks like for crypto. So let's hope and pray for that for the next year. But I'm really excited about self-custody, and I'm excited about DEXs and DeFi. And I feel like it's been weird, right? Like we have these sexes and these DEXs, and you're sort of like, why are we still using centralized exchanges when the technology exists to do better? Right? Why are we still there? And so I would hope that there's this, based on everything happening. Yeah, I hope we get clarity, but at the same time, I hope we get the consumers becoming smarter with holding their assets, understanding how to do self-custody and how to do it right, and how to use DEXs. And I hope those DEXs get 10 times better over the next year. And I think it almost feels like that's talking to a lot of the individuals around here. There's a trajectory for it. So there's an appetite to make the decentralized finance part of this way, way better than it is today. So that's what I would want to see in the next year.
Yeah, here.
Along a little bit the same lines. So MiCA regulation is coming to Europe, and we're front and center because we have our operations here in Europe. Our head of compliance is in Europe. So I hope to see more clarity and more companies embracing what this regulation is actually going to do, because it's going to make things, I don't want to say harder, but they're going to make things better, and for companies to comply, or at least have a timeline and a roadmap to comply with the regulations. So I'm excited about that. And then to your point a little bit, I hope to see more companies talking about use cases on blockchain. Forget the word crypto. Yeah, crypto is crypto. That's also very cool. And what we are doing and what our compliance, is looking at. But, come to us and let's talk about all these different applications on the blockchain. In the Las Vegas Money 2020 last year, we had, and maybe some of them are not here, but we had a lot of big banks and core banking providers coming to us. And it is a very slow process with them, but it is a process that we're down the road with a few of them now because they see how blockchain is needed in their applications.
So, yeah, amazing. And I think there's this mantra in Silicon Valley that's always move fast and break things, right? And I think we've broken something, right? And so it's how do we kind of take a step back and now build? And I think in Web3 and in blockchain even, it's, hey, we're going to go do this thing in the corner. And then whatever happens with regulation in different jurisdictions, they'll figure it out. But we're just going to keep moving fast and breaking things. I don't think that we can do that anymore, right? I think it's been proven that if you do that long enough, things are going to kind of come over the top at you, and the market isn't mature enough, and maybe it is too decentralized where they're like, well, just come get me with my Bitcoin and my stake and my shotgun in the forest, right? Like that's probably not the best approach to really make change.
Not very scalable,
right?
It's not going to work for everyone. Maybe like a few small handful of individuals are down to eat raw steak in the woods.
They want I want the last few people. But no, I really appreciate you guys. It's been a fun week being here with you guys and getting to hang out in Amsterdam.
It's
been a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful week, and we really lucked out with the weather, the people, and everything. It's been so nice. So appreciate chatting with you guys, and thanks for being here.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having us
setting
back.
all of this up.
Thanks for everyone out there
Awesome.
listening and having fun. Give us a follow, retweet this, and thanks all.
Cheers.